Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're at the Kansas Wheat office over in Manhattan. We're joined by Daniel Heady, who's the new Government Affairs Director for Kansas Wheat. So, Daniel, thanks for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here.
Little background: you're taking over the position that has been vacated for a little while. So, give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. I am a native Kansan from the eastern part of the state. I went to KU, got my undergrad there, and then I went to law school at UMKC in Kansas City, and then I took a position down in Wichita, working in government affairs down there, and then now I'm up here in Manhattan working for the wheat office.
Well, I know they're excited to have you. So, first time working legislatively, I guess, government affairs type job in agriculture?
Not exactly. When I was in undergrad up at KU, I spent some time in Washington, D.C. working for an ag lobbying firm out there. We did regulatory stuff, also did some agriculture work, and some small business work as well.
Yeah.
So,
What are some of the some of the main things you're focusing on? Just kind of coming in, and session's not going on here in the state of Kansas. Everybody just went back to work in Washington. What are some of the priorities you may have? Yeah,
it's been a good month to sort of get caught up and brought up to speed. Not a whole lot's been going on, so it's been good for me to sort of get my feet wet. As far as on the federal level, there's obviously the waters of the United States is a huge issue for us and for farmers all over the country, as well as trade agreements and expanding markets for Kansas farmers. Another issue, one that was kind of in the same vein, is working with Cuba, trying to expand farmer access to Cuban markets.
What about on the local level, statewide level?
Sure. On the state level, every year, obviously, when session comes around, there's things we pay more attention to. One example is in Kansas, there's been some effort to try and change the way ag land has been valued in regards to property taxes. We're trying to educate members of the state legislature about how farmers pay taxes, how much taxes they actually pay, and trying to make sure that we protect our farmers.
Long term, looking kind of down the road, I know Section 179, which is a tax issue moving forward, is that something that you're also kind of working on?
Yeah, we monitor all anything that could affect our members. That's one in particular. Ag machinery tax exemption, sales tax exemptions for ag activities. Those are the sorts of things that we're really kind of focused on right now, based mostly because of the position the state's in.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up with Daniel over at the Kansas Wheat office. You're watching kansasAGreport. We'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. Farmers Insurance, your best protection against the unexpected. Call Agent Dan Key at 785-408-5459. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Blue River Traders, the finest selection of Western-style furniture for your home. BlueRiverTraders.com.
We're at the Kansas Wheat office today, and we're joined by Daniel Heady, who is the new Government Affairs Director for Kansas Wheat. And in the first segment, we were kind of talking about maybe some of the issues that you were dealing with. We're not in session here in the state, but some of the waters of the U.S. and things like that you're dealing with. Each commodity here in the state of Kansas kind of has its own, I guess, government affairs: livestock, corn, soybean. What makes Kansas Wheat different than some of those other commodities?
Yeah, absolutely. Kansas is unique, or Kansas wheat is unique, mostly because Kansas is just a different product than corn is, or soybeans, things of that nature. There's just different challenges that wheat has that a lot of other commodities don't. And another unique part is 50% of Kansas wheat is exported. So we have more of a global focus. We look towards not only what's happening in Kansas, but what's happening in the country, what's happening in the continent, and what's happening in the world as far as wheat production. So it's not just necessarily a Kansas wheat thing, it's more on a global scale than some of the other commodities.
Well, we talk about a global scale, and you look at corn, for instance, and maybe some of the other commodities where GMOs are playing a huge factor in either exports or people not taking exports when it comes to GMOs. same issue face Kansas wheat?
Not quite in the same way. It still affects Kansas wheat, but in a different way because there's currently no commercially available forms of GMO wheat, mostly because other countries won't accept GMO wheat. So there's no point in us producing it because like I said earlier, a lot of our wheat is exported, and if we can't export wheat, then it's difficult to farm. So as far as GMOs go, it's something that is probably coming down the line in the future, but it's not a viable option for us at this current moment in time.
And the last minute we have together, Daniel, is maybe some of the priorities that you're kind of looking at as we finish out the year.
Absolutely. As we spoke earlier, tax both on the state and federal level, the way farmers are taxed is obviously an issue, as well as the waters of the United States. There's lots of litigation going on right now, with different courts ruling differently on how the federal government can approach regulating waters. And then sort of the final thing is, as we spoke earlier as well, access to markets on a global scale. Cuba is a huge issue for us, making sure that Kansas farmers can export their wheat to Cuba.